Today's Iraqi Dinar update is drawing quiet but serious attention across financial circles, and for good reason. While there may be no dramatic headlines or sudden spikes grabbing social media attention, something more important is happening beneath the surface. A controlled shift in behavior, tone, and structure that seasoned observers immediately recognize as meaningful. The dinar is not reacting emotionally to global pressure, nor is it moving erratically as speculative currencies often do. Instead, it's showing signs of measured stability, a quality that usually appears only when internal systems are being carefully aligned. This kind of movement rarely announces itself loudly. It develops quietly while most people are distracted by noise elsewhere. Yet history shows that meaningful currency transitions often begin exactly like this. They're slow, calculated, and almost unnoticed by the general public. What makes today different is not just the rate itself, but the way the market is responding to it. There is no panic, no sharp imbalance, and no uncontrolled demand spikes. Instead, there's a sense of calm structure, suggesting that decision-makers are maintaining confidence and discipline. This matters because currency strength is not built on excitement, but on trust, predictability, and control. When a nation's financial system demonstrates these traits, it sends a signal far beyond its borders. Investors, institutions, and analysts don't look for hype, they look for consistency. And today's movement, however subtle, reflects that consistency forming beneath the surface. The Iraqi dinar's current behavior suggests alignment rather than reaction, intention rather than impulse. That's why today's update deserves attention, not for what it promises overnight, but for what it quietly indicates over time. Those who understand financial cycles know that the earliest phase of change is often the calmest, and those paying attention during this stage are usually the ones who understand what's coming next before the rest of the world catches on. What makes this moment especially important is the broader environment surrounding the Iraqi dinar right now. Global markets are operating under pressure, with inflation concerns, interest rate adjustments, and shifting geopolitical alignments influencing currencies worldwide. In that context, stability becomes more valuable than speed. The dinar's behavior today reflects a system that is being carefully managed rather than forcefully pushed. Instead of sudden corrections or emotional reactions, what we're seeing is controlled movement, the kind that suggests coordination between financial policy, market liquidity, and institutional oversight. This type of balance does not happen by accident. It indicates that monetary authorities are focused on long-term credibility rather than short-term excitement. When currencies attempt to move too fast, confidence erodes. When they move with intention, confidence builds quietly but powerfully. This is why many experienced observers are watching Iraq's monetary posture more closely now than during periods of louder speculation. The absence of chaos is not a lack of progress. It's evidence of structure. Markets respond not only to numbers but to behavior, and the behavior on display reflects caution, planning, and internal discipline. That's especially important in a world where investors are increasingly selective and risk-aware. Stability sends a message that systems are being strengthened behind the scenes, not rushed for appearance. Today's shift, therefore, should be understood as part of a larger rhythm rather than a single isolated event. It represents continuity, not randomness. For those paying attention, this consistency speaks louder than any headline-driven spike ever could. The dinar is not attempting to impress, it is positioning itself. And in financial systems, positioning is often the most strategic move of all. Those who understand this dynamic recognize that real change rarely announces itself with noise. It reveals itself through order, timing, and controlled progression. That's what makes today's update quietly significant. Another critical layer to understand in today's Iraqi dinar movement is the role of confidence, not public hype, but institutional confidence. Financial systems do not strengthen through speculation. They strengthen through predictability, regulation, and consistency. What we are seeing now reflects a currency environment that is being carefully managed to inspire trust both internally and externally. When a country focuses on reinforcing financial discipline, tightening mechanisms, and ensuring transparency in transactions, the results often appear subtle at first. However, those subtle shifts create the foundation for long-term credibility. The dinar's behavior today suggests that authorities are prioritizing control over chaos, structure over reaction, and long-term positioning over short-term attention. This approach matters because global markets respond more favorably to stability than to sudden movement. Large institutions, international partners, and financial observers look for patterns that demonstrate reliability, not emotional swings. The current trend reflects exactly that, a steady, deliberate posture that minimizes risk while reinforcing confidence. It also suggests that the focus is not on artificial boosts or symbolic gestures, but on sustainable financial alignment. When markets sense that a currency is being protected by disciplined policy rather than reactive measures, confidence grows naturally over time. This kind of confidence doesn't generate instant excitement, but it builds durability. And durability is what ultimately attracts serious participation. Today's update, therefore, is less about immediate change and more about structural intent. The dinar is not chasing momentum. It is creating a foundation where momentum can eventually emerge organically. This distinction is critical because history shows that currencies, backed by patience and consistency, tend to outperform those driven by urgency or speculation. In this context, today's developments point toward a longer-term vision, one focused on stability, trust, and gradual strengthening rather than rapid fluctuation. That kind of movement may appear quiet, but in financial systems, quiet strength often carries the greatest significance. Another important element shaping today's Iraqi dinar update is the broader regional and global financial environment in which these movements are taking place. Markets around the world are adjusting to shifting monetary policies, evolving trade dynamics, and changing geopolitical priorities. In such an environment, stability becomes a strategic advantage rather than a coincidence. Iraq's financial posture today appears to reflect awareness of this global reality. Rather than reacting impulsively to external pressure, the approach appears measured, suggesting coordination between monetary oversight and economic planning. This type of discipline often signals preparation rather than reaction. When a country positions its currency carefully during uncertain global conditions, it sends a message of resilience and awareness. The dinar's current behavior indicates that decisions are being made with a long-term framework in mind, not short-term emotional influence. This matters because global investors and institutions watch not only what happens, but how it happens. A calm, controlled environment builds credibility, even in silence. It suggests that systems are being reinforced behind the scenes, ensuring sustainability rather than temporary relief. Markets reward consistency, and the absence of panic often reflects confidence in internal structures. This is especially significant at a time when many economies are facing volatility, policy shifts, and unpredictable market reactions. Against that backdrop, stability stands out. It becomes a signal that internal mechanisms are functioning as intended. The dinar's current behavior, therefore, can be interpreted as a strategic posture, one that prioritizes endurance over speed and credibility over attention. This is not the kind of movement that seeks headlines, but rather the kind that quietly earns trust over time. Observers who understand economic cycles recognize this pattern as one of preparation rather than stagnation. When a system maintains balance during global uncertainty, it often indicates readiness for future phases of development. That is why today's update carries weight beyond the surface numbers. It reflects a controlled narrative of patience, coordination, and strategic positioning within a complex global financial environment. As we look ahead, the most important takeaway from today's Iraqi Dinar update is not about immediate outcomes, but about direction. Financial strength is rarely built in moments of excitement. It is shaped quietly through consistency, discipline, and strategic patience. What we are witnessing now appears to be part of a longer process, one that values sustainability over spectacle. The dinar's current positioning reflects an environment where decision-makers are focused on reinforcing foundations rather than chasing reactions. This is often the stage where long-term confidence begins to take root. Even if the wider public has not yet recognized it, markets tend to reward preparation long before they reward momentum. And those who understand this principle know that calm periods often precede meaningful shifts. Today's movement signals that the groundwork is being carefully maintained, allowing future developments to unfold with stability rather than shock. This is why experienced observers pay attention not to sudden spikes, but to patterns of consistency and control. The absence of chaos is itself a message, one that speaks to structural awareness and measured intent. For those watching closely, the dinar's behavior suggests a currency being guided, not pushed, protected, not pressured. That distinction matters deeply in global finance. As conditions continue to evolve worldwide, currencies anchored in discipline are better positioned to adapt without disruption. The path forward is not about speculation or prediction, but about understanding direction. And right now, the direction points towards steadiness, alignment, and calculated progress. This does not guarantee immediate transformation, but it does indicate preparation for sustainable movement over time. In the world of finance, that kind of preparation often proves more valuable than any sudden headline. The Iraqi dinar's current phase is one of quiet strength. And for those who know how to read the signals, today's update offers clarity without noise, purpose without urgency, and progress without pressure.